Sean Fine and Andrea Nix Fine are Emmy, Oscar, Peabody award-winning filmmakers. And, critics have often talked about their work as unflinching, soul-raising, visually ravishing, which is absolutely true. And it's been a privilege to work with this directing team. Sean is also the cinematographer on his films. Andrea is the writer. We had the additional privilege of collaborating with them again on Innocente, which I produced with them, and they directed and went on to win the Oscar for Best Short. And they currently formed a new studio called Change Content to tell social impact stories, and have a number of projects in development as far-reaching as feature films and Broadway plays. So we're really excited to see what comes out of that studio. So let us welcome now Sean Fine and Andrea Nix Fine.
Hi, thanks, Alvy.
Everybody, thank you.
We've got a lot of questions coming up. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of them, and I'm going to attempt to get them all in here. But as they come in and they're being collated, let me start this off because it's been a long time since we've been able to talk about the film, and just watching it again had so many amazing moments together. And it started at the beginning. So when I was head of president of Spike TV, I decided to make a documentary called True Dads, the story of American fatherhood. And I reached out to Sean and Andrea, who had been making incredible award-winning films with National Geo, to be part of that. And I thought they would do an amazing job, and they did an amazing award-winning job, and brought them on to do War Dance. Tried to convince them to do War Dance, and told them the story of the children in northern Uganda being victims of this civil war, and what an incredible situation there is. I just was hoping they would do it and be as affected by the story as we are. And I want to start you off by saying, when you heard this from us, what did you think? How did you absorb it? Why did you get involved? And then what was your thinking about it, how you were going to approach the making of the film?
Well, I think when we heard about it from you, I think the part that hit us first was when you're hearing about tens of thousands of kids being abducted to be child soldiers in the longest running civil war in Africa, and you don't know anything about it, which we didn't. We were shocked. And so I think that's one of the first things is, what is it about this that's not being told? And how can we bring something to it? I think the other part is that, Albie, you and Susan immediately came to us saying, like, we want to do something with a film, and we want it to help, and we want to make an impact. And we had been really enjoying making films at National Geographic, but that wasn't part of the bargain of what we were doing there. It was a great training ground for us, but we had a lot of ideas about how we wanted to take a film and do something artistically and socially impactful in a way that was not possible there. So I think that's where we started, and it was a tough subject because a lot of that stories of our children in pain in some ways, and we didn't want to tell it through other people's eyes. We want to kind of tell it from the inside out. So I think that's kind of where we started, but we really didn't know how we were going to go about doing it. But I think, to your all credit, you're like, well, we got to go there on the ground and figure out what's going on. And he's like, all right, I'm in. So, but by the way, you have to, it's only going to make an impact to go to Sundance and it, gets nominated for Academy Award. And we're like, oh my God.
No pressure, right? No pressure.
Yeah.
Well, we have a first question here from Bruce, and I think it's a great one to start with because we had to go there, and this was a war zone after all. And I know when we went to scout, we were with AMRAF, the African Medical Relief, who was aiding us in trying to get access. But going around on the bus there and looking outside Gulu, we were the colonel and the forces, and we were on the bus, and somebody on the bus said, I got to pee. And he started to go running out, and the colonel goes, you're not going anywhere. Because look out the window. It was this high grass, and we were looking at the high grass, and they go, the rebels are out there, and they're watching us. And I was like, that's when it kind
There we go.
Sorry, I don't know if you heard me, but I've unmuted myself. Um, that we really were looking at a situation where there were rebels and there's a war going on, and it was a war zone. And, you know, we did send you in there. So Bruce's question is, how did you manage to film being surrounded by these rebel forces?
I mean, it was pretty dangerous, and I think we managed to do it with a pretty remarkable team, a small team, but also, with your guys' support as well, and having people there, having one person there that, he wasn't armed, but he looked after for our safety was really helpful, so that I could do my job and we could do our job and focus on telling these stories. But I think also while we were there, we had trouble finding the story in, you can call them the safer parts of the war zone. And so when we heard there was one school that was competing in this music competition, but when we asked those same generals who you're talking about, and we asked journalists, oh, we want to go to this place, they said, oh, you're not allowed to go there. It's closed down. It's the most dangerous place. There's not even a place to stay there. It's a refugee camp or internally displaced camp. So, we just said, yeah, we want to go there. Like, we want to tell their story. So we went for it. And it was definitely a challenge. I mean, I got malaria when I was there. There were challenges of clean water, food and things. But I also had an RPG put to my head at one point. It was a pretty
Ooh,
intense.
you didn't tell me that one. I'm glad you didn't
Yeah,
tell
no,
me.
it was an intense, like, it was intense. And it turned out to just be like some army scouts, but they blocked the road at night. You're not supposed to drive on the road at night because they're rebels at night. And we were going to get shots at night. They're in the film. And they blocked the road with a log, and we came to a stop, and these guys came coming out of the grass screaming at us and like pointing guns. And I had malaria at the time, so I was a little out of it too. And it was just really intense. But I think, like, for us, I say all that stuff, but we got to leave, I mean, we went there, we made a film, and we got to come home to a safe place. And so when you're in a place like that and it's really dangerous, and you think, like, I get to go home, but the people that we're filming, they have to stay here. They have to deal with that. They have to figure out how to live a life where right outside of them in that tall grass are rebels, are people that can abduct their children and take their children. And I think that kind of fueled us to keep going. Not just me, but I think the whole team that we had, everybody knew, everybody put themselves on the line to make this film and really dedicated themselves to making this film, which was why I think it was so special too.
Yeah, it's an incredible experience. Heather has a question, which a few people have, which is, how did you find the kids, and how did they become the center of the story? I know when we went, we sort of were looking at a school in Gulu, and you were like, that's fine, but we're going further north. We're going to go further, more dangerous, somewhere else. And you spent, we didn't hear from you for three, 4, 5 days, 6 days, a week. I don't remember what it was. I kept asking you, well, where's the footage? Where's the footage? What's happening? And you were going through your process to find those kids. And we were being nervous producers back home, but it worked out great. Tell us about that process and how you found the kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think like for us, we went to all these different schools that were competing in the music competition. So, like, we would try to go to schools we'd hear about or we know about. And you have to imagine, this is a place with barely any electricity. Most of the places we're going don't have electricity, or they have blackouts or brownouts. And so you're not calling people to find out. You have to show up. And so you show up and you find out, well, that school was bombed. No one's at that school. They shot it. The rebels shot it up. This school isn't competing because it's too dangerous this year. So we just kept going and moving around. And then that's when we heard of this one school. And when we went out there to go check it out, literally driving up were the kids practicing for the music competition. And I think, like, we walked up and they didn't know we were coming, and we just walked up and started watching. And I immediately saw Dominic, one of the kids in the film, playing the xylophone, and it was mesmerizing. And I remember, like, calling Andrea and being like, this is it. Like, this is the place. These are the kids. Also, because nobody in that place, there was nobody there. There was no relief. I think there was, MSF was there for a little bit, and they would leave when it would get too dangerous. So,
Except for the UN.
yeah, but the UN would come deliver food, but there was no, like, NGOs there doing too much. People come in and out, but no one was asking these kids about their story. So when we asked them, they were like, they were very excited to open up.
And I think the only other part to add is that, you know, we're talking about the music competition like that was baked in, but I think that was part of our story process is how are we going to share an experience that is quite relatable to anybody watching it? Because people initially might think they don't have anything in common with the experiences of some of these kids and what they're going through. So when we heard about that music competition, that felt like, wow, all right, let's find a school whose kids might be telling that. And we were sort of settled on 3 kids, felt like the right mix, the right number of kids, and let's tell it through their story. And we hadn't seen another film do that. So I think it was a combination of like, make me care, make me relate. And I think that's what happens hopefully in the film when you will watch it, is that you see that and you start to feel and care because you're understanding. Everyone's been to a music competition or in a play or done a sporting event or something like that. It makes them care and it sort of connects people.
And I think we get tired of the face that the news puts on situations. You know, it's usually the horror. It's like, I can tell you, we interviewed tons of kids just without the camera telling us horrific stories I don't even want to repeat. And it's just that if you just keep showing that, that's all people think these kids are. That's all they are. The only voice is like horror or an image of them with a gun or something. And we wanted to change that and make people care, like Andrea said.
You know, let's go deeper there because Raymond and William and some others are really, and we were like fascinated and amazed at how you got the trust of the kids in the tribe. And you want to talk about the tree, because when you would phone back and say, I don't have any footage to show you, you would tell me, well, I'm out at the tree talking to kids and we'll find people, we'll get great story, but I'm out by the tree talking. And so how did you get the trust of these kids and the tribe in general? And many people, you know, coming from your culture into that culture.
I think like when Andrea and I film anything, we don't start with the camera. We rarely start with the camera. We start with meeting people. We start with spending time. It makes us anxious. I'm sure it makes producers anxious because stuff is happening and we're not filming. But I think that if people get to know you as people, they start to open up. And Andrea and I were reflecting upon it too, because, you know, I took that for granted. When we started this process and when we started filming, when we got married and started making films together, I think we took for granted that, you know, every filmmaker does that. Everybody can get somebody to open up. And I don't know. I mean, people ask us all the time, but people let us into their lives, whether it's in Uganda or in the United States. You know, people seem to let us into places of their lives that with the cameras that I'm amazed all the time. And it's a gift. I mean, Andrea always says it's like this gift they're giving us.
Yeah, it's like trusting. They don't exactly totally understand filmmaking because they're not filmmakers, but they're trusting you. And you're just like holding that, you know, to make something that they feel proud that they were a part of. And that's always our hope, you know.
And we also spent time like talking to the moms and dads that were there and the school, so they would know what we were doing. I mean, I don't know, to be honest, if everybody understood, because there was no electricity and there's no movies and there's no TV. So I'm sure people didn't understand 100%, but we tried to explain. We also stopped filming if anyone has a question. You know, we're very cognizant that these are people and the people come before the film. And you and Susan were completely supportive. I mean, every creative, it's the first time I think we've ever had somebody be so supportive of us as filmmakers. I mean, even calling back, I know at one point we were trying to make it in English because, you know, people want to watch films in English. They don't want to watch subtitles. And we told you, look, we have a dilemma. We think they should speak in Acholi. We'll try in English, but we're trying. And you were like, do what you think is best for the film. And I mean, that meant the world to us because, you know, I don't think many producers would do that.
But the other part too is that it's not like we just, you know, thought like we're just going to go up through the kids. I mean, when Sean was going through the process of talking through what this was all about, it starts with the elders of the village and then the teachers, and then they're introducing you to the kids' parents and having meetings with them, explaining what that is, and then asking the kid themselves if they're interested in sharing their story. So there's like a many layer process, and that's, you know, in any film you do, you're trying to make sure people understand, and also, especially at that age, you make sure that there's support from people who they respect and look out for them too.
And it's just one story is patience too, because
Nancy.
Because Nancy, like, for example, Nancy said to us, like, she said, what we wanted to do is tell a part of the war through each kid. So one of these kids represents thousands and thousands of kids. So Nancy's story was, the perfect story, and she was great. And I saw her and I wanted to talk to her, and I talked to her a little without the camera. I said, hey, can we talk some more? And she said, yeah, meet me tomorrow under that tree over there and we can talk then. So I go and I sit under the tree, sat for like 2 hours waiting. And then I finally left. She never showed. And the next day I said, oh, you never showed. She said, I was watching you under the tree and now I'll talk to you. And she started laughing at me. So they keep it like pushing us and stuff. So it took a lot of patience.
Well, and that's a great mark of your filmmaking. And I think one of the ways you built that trust too was letting them talk right to the camera, which has become something that you have been known for, that personal style that's been so effective in letting them talk and tell their story, which we also talked about a lot at the beginning of film as a style. And you just let them look right into the camera. I think that also helped them build trust because they didn't have to talk to somebody else. They could be intimate and tell these, incredible stories like that. And one of the stories that was, obviously they're all extraordinary, but one of them that's amazing, and we've got a lot of questions from Bruce and Brett and Elizabeth, Michelle and Ronnie and others about what's happening now with the kids and where are they and what's going on. And one of those stories was someone who has emerged as just a personal hero of mine, just been able to overcome this. And Sue and I have talked about this. It just epitomizes that story of resilience that Shine strives for, and that what you guys so brilliantly captured and what he lives through. So we'd like to bring in a surprise guest now, Dom, or Dominic Aquina. So Dom, would you join us please and open up your video and audio so we can see your wonderful face and talk with you.
Albert, thank you. Oh my God. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. So let's start off by telling us where you are now, a little bit about your journey to where you are now, which has been extraordinary. And then maybe we'll talk a little about what's going back at home and what you know about, okay?
Absolutely. I am in Toronto right now, and it's how I got here recently. It's just been a while. It's for a lot of people. I think for a lot of us kids who were in the film, there's that the experience never stopped for us. So like everything that happened to me from the day the film was made to today, just everything is so a surprise. So I ended up in Canada actually in 2017 after I finished university in Pennsylvania, and I lived in Washington D.C. with Sean and Andrea for a year. So I learned this. I just started to learn how to be a filmmaker because when something like this, there is no. I mean, it's hard to find other meanings or other things in life that you want to do, but wanted to continue to do what they do, which I think is really beautiful. So I ended up in Toronto. I ended up in Toronto because my paperwork in the States with just being foreign there, it didn't work out at the time. It was a different plan. So I came to Toronto to do a master's in film and documentary filmmaking, which I just finished last year. And I decided to stick around in Toronto for now. So I just got a job working as a video producer for Deloitte Canada, the consulting accounting firm. So it's all of that, piecing it back together. It's definitely every day is it ties back to war dance. It ties back to the experience of being so lucky to be a part of this movie.
Great. And have you been in touch, or do you know where Nancy and Rose are?
Honestly, the last time I spoke to both Nancy and Rose was back in 2017 when I visited home briefly over the summer. They were both doing well. Rose started a business of hairdressing up in a small town called Gulo. It was about 2 hours away from Patong, where we grew up. And Nancy just finished a degree. She moved back to work in education. So she's either she's teaching or she's a school administrator or some sort along that line. But she's gotten herself a university degree, and she's now helping at school, and she's very happy doing that. For any of the other kids, I keep in touch with John and all the other kids who are in the film through Facebook. Surprisingly, a lot of them has managed to get themselves some of those cell phones so they can find me, and we've been able to chat. Sometimes it's a bunch of just saying hello over and over again without really having much to discuss, but it just how we say hello there. So I'm really happy to be able to keep in touch with almost a lot of the kids who were in the film, which is the most beautiful part of the experience. Is that a lot of the kids not only we're excited to be a part of our entire journey. They lived with the experience for a long time, and a lot of them were very motivated to go finish school, do something meaningful, and so keep that experience as part of their studying life.
And Dom, we have a great question about, how you go through this and find hope and resilience. How did you, get to define that and find that in your own life after coming through that? Did you have support systems? Did other things help? Or how were you able to do it so fantastically and come out the way as special as you are?
I can't speak for every children that were part of every children that I grew up with and experienced war with them. But for me personally, it's rooted back to how I grew up in a household of 5 kids and a single mom who was taking care of us during the war. So I learned very early on to kind of fend for myself, and my go-to survival mode is basically run. Like there's this threat, run here. There's this threat, you got to run there. I kind of learned instinctively to take care of myself on my own, always avoiding trouble or anything that I can't control. I just run from it. So with our experience, in respect to my experience, to be honest, when you're faced with a dire situation where you can't do anything else but survive, I think hope is, for me, hope was my last thing. I mean, this is the only thing I couldn't lose. Everything else was gone. So, and I knew I was too much of, I was just, I didn't like the other alternative of not being able to live anymore. So like, I just wanted to, the last thing I had was just to keep going. I accepted that there couldn't have been any worse thing that could happen to me at that point. So I decided to divert my attention into things that I like to do, which include playing the xylophone was a big part of my getting back to a normal way of living with people. And then speaking to my mom and speaking to my siblings and speaking to my community members and the wardens, community school members, it slowly became easier to do. But before the music, before I started to pick up a stick and start to play xylophone, it was very hard for me to just walk up to someone and start saying something and start thinking and to just start spilling out what was going through my head at the time, or to like I tried talking to my mom about my experience, but
well,
in my recent everyday, like,
that leads me to a good question, because in 2009 we worked again with Sean Andrea on War Dance Returns to make sure that the community could see the film, right? And Andrea, Sean, you want to talk about going back with Susan and showing the film to the families and to Dom and everyone, what that was like? People want to know
it was
reaction was.
Yeah, we partnered
Ronnie, thank you for that question, Ronnie.
Yeah, we partnered with Inflatable Films, which is a really great organization that uses these inflatable outdoor screens to project movies in communities where they usually can't see a movie. And usually they don't show documentaries about that community. They show like normal films and stuff. And so we got them to help, and we set up this big screening in Field, and the whole village came. I mean, I don't know, Dom, it seemed like 1,000 people. It seemed like a lot of people were there at the screening. And I mean, everybody, like I was pretty nervous. I didn't know if we got the translations 100%. I thought we did. I thought, you know, we were nervous, but everybody applauded afterwards. And then the most meaningful thing is I woke up the next day and underneath my door were like hundreds of handwritten notes from people. I understand what you were doing. This is so important. Thank you. You know, it was a pretty nice to get that response, you know, from everybody. And I remember you guys were sitting in the front row, Dom, you, Nancy, and Rose, and everybody. And I remember talking to your mom too, and she was saying thank you for making this. And Dom's mom is an unbelievable human being. Like she's a really fantastic person. So.
And for many of the people, right, you first had to start to explain what a movie was, right? I mean, that was, you were setting up this whole thing.
Yeah, and especially, movie and a documentary. Because I think some people like had seen movies like Dom, I think you said when you were little, you might have saw part of Rambo or something, you know, but
yeah.
just what it is and why they were talking. Like, I think a lot of people didn't understand what were these people doing and what was going to happen to this. And it was so long, you know, it was 2007 and 2009, but the Academy Awards had happened. So everybody had heard about that stuff. And it was just it was great to just look in the audience and see everybody glued to the screen, because you don't know if like you make a film about people that already know themselves, if they're going to be interested to watch themselves. And I have to say, like that music competition for Patongo Primary School, I mean, I think they still have the trophy and war dance in a case in the school with a VHS like play or DVD player so people can watch it. It's like that's a huge thing for them. I mean, they're famous in that school because of that winning that competition. So to be able to them to relive it,
right,
through these guys' eyes, because most of the village couldn't go to the competition. So to relive it through their eyes and actually to hear from the kids why this was important, you know, from their voice, I think that's another layer that people hadn't really understood. They just knew there's a competition, it's big. They didn't realize how much it took the war away, how much it helped their kids. And I think it bolstered them to support like the further years going forward.
It's a good question we got from Christopher. Is the competition still going on, Dom, and you guys know?
I'm not. Yeah, it continued to. The government continued to support the competition because they realize how important it is to the kids and to education of the kids in general. But I'm not sure how many schools still what the turnout is for a school, and I'm not. Yeah, they did make music and dance sort of program a mandatory part of the curriculum to the school. So yes, So they're continuing to do music festival every year.
And this is a question from Suzanne, which is relevant today and also for our collaboration, Susan and I, is to Sean and Andrea working together as a married couple with children. What are your tips and tricks for making it all work?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I feel like this film was like a series of firsts on so many ways, you know, that, well, I mean, we had just started, you know, we had just been married and had our oldest, you know, within that year. And we had decided to start making films together. And then we started making a film together in a way that we'd never made a film together. We hadn't worked with the team that we were with. It was all really new. And I think it was like I look back at that as such a special time. I mean, it's such a special time in terms of like, you're creating all over the place. You're creating your home life, your kid life, and then our films, you know, and having Dom come into our life, you know, he changed our lives forever. This film changed our life forever. I mean, it's a really important time to us. And I've really enjoyed just being a part of this whole process, this exchange, watching the film again, having people connect and being able to share it. So I think that part of it is I feel like we have meaning in what we're doing. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean everybody always gets along. It's perfect. But it's like, I think we talk about like, it's like a nest, you know, and you're adding sticks, and each film is a stick, and each person that you care about is a stick, and people in it, and you're building this thing, but it's also meshing with your home life. We don't exactly have the work-home life balance, but Yeah.
Well, I am impressed that unlike many Zooms I've been on, I don't see the kids running around crazy in the background. You
No,
have
this is our office, man.
some control over what.
No,
you
this is,
Yeah.
we're in our office right now. This would be, yeah.
Let me ask a last question. We have hundreds of people here. Thank you, all of you, for participating, and we'd love to get to all your questions. It's going to be impossible, but one that's important, and I'll start with Dom, is, what would you like people to take away from watching War Dance? What is there a message or a thought that you have? And then Sean and Andrea share something with us as well.
Well, looking back how we sort of lived in Uganda at the time and continue to live like that, some of our family members still do live quite a traumatic life from the experience of growing up in a war. It's hard to say, because I don't know how to advise anyone how to take this out for themselves to learn from it. But I just realized that the older I get, and I just watched the movie again yesterday after almost 10 years of watching it fully, and I realized how, I just realized that for us, the 2-hour window of a movie, it's like, that's the tiny snapshot, but that life continued to happen for us. And so what I would like people to take away from watching a story like this is that, I'm sure by now I learned from that one experience that really crazy things happen in life. And so a lot of it sometimes is out of your control. So, and then, for me, and what got me going is just controlling the things that I could control at the time, and my thoughts and what I wanted to occupy my heart and mind to at that time. And so that really pushed me to do something positive, like start playing music other than doing something else that could have been possibly not helpful to me. And so for a movie like this, for a story like this, for me, the life continue. It hasn't ended, so it's a story that continued to happen. But I know now that in the future, if I get into a stressful situation, something that I'm completely helpless with, I remind myself back what I did when I was 9, 10, 11, when I was having those tough times. It was easier when I was a kid, because all I wanted to do was basically not die, not be here. But things are a little bit more complicated as you're adult. But in a house, a lot of people are experiencing that for the first time. And so when what you could do is try to think about something that you are good at. It could be bad thing, it could be good thing, but as long as you take your mind off from the stressful moment at that time, I think it's helpful to move you forward until you find better days. I don't think I can say anything.
Well, that's beautiful, and that is the essence. Could not express it better, Dom. Thank you so much for being part of this, and for being who you are. And Sean, Andrea, what are your thoughts on the film and what you'd like people to take away from it?
Gosh, there's a lot of. I think for us, it's. I think part of it is that, especially now, like we need to listen more. Like as a society as a whole, we need to stop and listen. We're fed news, we're fed headlines, we're fed things constantly. We're fed things about child soldiers. We're fed things, but do you ever stop to really wonder what those kids think, what they feel, what they're going through? Or do we just clump them into one thing, into a headline, and then think about it, say that's awful, and forget about it? And especially now, I mean, even with this, we've been talking about this, even with what's going on with all of us, like there's dreadful things every day that you hear about, but there's people that are doing remarkable things. And there's people you don't hear about. And there's stories of people being resilient. And we as human beings are incredibly resilient and incredibly hopeful people. And when we're put, when our feet are put to the fire, we rise above and we do good things. And I think there's more good things than bad things. It's just for some reason people, they listen to the bad. I mean, we just see the bad things all the time, but I think there's way more good things. I mean, to find this good, you know, Dom and these kids and this music competition and all. And like you said, it's only a snapshot of their life. The kids are amazing kids. The village is amazing. The people there are amazing. It's like they keep living. They're still there. They keep going on. And we need to listen and look for those stories and also remind ourselves that they're out there. You know, I think that's really important.
And I think too, in some ways, I feel like this film for all of us was a great experiment, right? If you put it on paper, I don't know if people thought like, oh, this is going to be like embraced by a lot of people, you know, like a film about child soldiers and kids in war, and it's got a foreign language, and you know, there's so many reasons that it maybe wouldn't have done well. But I think what I take away from it is that if you get to the heart of it and you find a beautiful journey and you connect a story to the person watching it, it works. And that can be in anything. And so I think it proved something to us that we chase in every film we do ever since. And it doesn't mean it's perfect. It doesn't mean the film is perfect. It doesn't mean, you know, it's perfect for people. Like for Dom, I mean, this film, it opened a door for him to have a different journey, but he's had to walk through it, and he's had to reinvent himself and restart time and time again, you know, going to boarding school or going to college or going to Toronto and dealing with all this stuff and still keeping a tie to home. It's hard, but it's still, I think there's meaning in this. And I think, you know, it's still a ripple effect that we find beautiful and we respect. And I think we feel very close to the team, everyone who's on this call, you know, the editor, Jeff Consiglio, and Josie, who is co-producer in the field, and Peter Hutchins, who is there too. Like, those people are going to be so special to us because we all kind of came together in this little crazy treehouse that we tried to make for this film. So I think that's what I take away from it, is that it kind of set the bar of what I wanted to do going forward, and that it could make an impact. And I think it did. So for us, that, you know, we still chase that in everything we try to do.